Kai was the strongest guard in the royal palace. Every morning, he woke before sunrise and ran through the long corridors and gardens. His boots made soft thuds on the stone floors as he practiced his movements. He carried heavy training swords and shields, swinging them with precision and power. Every guard in the palace looked up to him. The king often watched him train and nodded in approval. Kai had been a guard for many years, and everyone believed that no one could match his strength or skill. One bright morning, a stranger arrived at the palace gates. He wore a neat uniform and carried a small case with him. He introduced himself as Major Collins from the United States Army. His eyes were serious, and his voice was calm but commanding. He explained that he had come to observe and test the abilities of the palace guards. His challenge was different from anything Kai had faced before. He said the test would measure strength, speed, focus, and endurance. He warned that even the most trained soldiers often struggled to complete all the tasks. Kai listened carefully. He felt a spark of excitement in his chest. He had trained for years, and he believed his body and mind were ready for anything. "I accept your challenge," Kai said, his voice steady. "I want to see if the skills I have learned here can match the best in your army." The major looked at him quietly and nodded. He said, "Tomorrow, the tests will begin. You must be prepared. This will not be easy." Then he turned and left the palace without another word. Kai spent the rest of the day preparing. He ran through the palace corridors again, lifting heavy stones to strengthen his arms. He climbed the palace walls, practicing speed and agility. He swung his sword with precision, imagining each movement as part of a test. His mind worked as hard as his body. He planned strategies and imagined every challenge the major could give him. That evening, Kai sat quietly in his small room. The sun had set, and the sky glowed with red and orange. He could hear the distant sounds of the palace guards finishing their evening training. Kai's thoughts were filled with the challenges ahead. He wondered what kind of tests the major had planned. Would they test his speed with obstacles, his strength with heavy weights, or his focus under pressure? He did not know, but he was determined to be ready. He remembered the stories of soldiers from the United States Army. They were said to be disciplined, strong, and clever. Many had trained in ways different from Kai. Some could run long distances without tiring. Some could lift weights heavier than a man could carry alone. Some had to solve problems while their bodies were exhausted. Kai knew he had strength and skill, but he also knew he must be careful. Overconfidence could be dangerous. Kai decided to rest before the next day. He stretched carefully, relaxed his muscles, and focused on his breathing. He told himself to stay calm and confident. He imagined the tests ahead and imagined himself succeeding. When the first light of morning entered his room, Kai was already awake. His body felt strong, his mind clear, and his heart steady. He put on his training uniform, adjusted his sword belt, and went to the palace gates where Major Collins waited. The major's serious expression made Kai's excitement grow. This was the moment to prove himself, not only to the major, but also to himself and the entire kingdom. Kai felt a quiet energy inside him. Today would be the beginning of something important. He knew the challenge would test every part of him: his strength, his speed, his endurance, and his focus. But he also knew that he had trained for years to face this exact moment. He was ready to show what a royal guard could do. The major smiled slightly and said, "Kai, today you will face the first test. Are you ready?" Kai nodded. His eyes were bright, and his voice was strong. "I am ready." Kai did not know what exactly awaited him, but he knew he would face it with courage. The palace walls seemed taller, the air seemed sharper, and every sound seemed louder. This was the start of a challenge that could change everything. Kai took a deep breath, held his head high, and stepped forward. The morning sun shone brightly over the palace courtyard, Kai stood at attention, his body tense but ready. Major Collins had prepared a large area for the tests. Wooden obstacles, heavy stones, ropes, and time markers filled the space. Kai's eyes scanned everything carefully, trying to guess the order of the challenges. "Your first test is the obstacle course," Major Collins announced. "It will measure your speed, agility, and endurance. You must complete every part. The fastest and most precise performance will show your strength." Kai nodded. His heart beat faster with excitement. He had practiced running, climbing, and jumping countless times in the palace, but this course looked different. The walls were higher than he expected, the ropes thicker, and the distances longer. He stepped forward and positioned himself at the starting line. "Begin," the major commanded. Kai ran immediately. He jumped over low barriers with ease and swung across ropes with strong arms. His legs moved quickly, landing lightly on each platform. He climbed tall walls, feeling the rough surface under his hands, and pushed himself to reach the top. His breathing remained steady, and his mind focused on each step. Halfway through the course, Kai reached a section with heavy stones. He had to lift them, carry them across a distance, and place them carefully on a platform. The first stone felt heavy in his arms, but Kai gritted his teeth and lifted it. His muscles burned, but he moved with determination. One by one, he carried the stones, placing each in its correct position. Sweat ran down his face, but he did not slow down. Next came the rope climb. A tall rope hung from a high bar, and Kai had to pull himself to the top and ring a small bell. He grabbed the rope firmly and began climbing. His arms shook slightly, but his strong grip and practiced movements helped him reach the top. He rang the bell loudly, letting everyone hear the sound of completion. The final section required Kai to run through a zigzag path with low barriers and jump over gaps. His legs felt tired, but his determination kept him moving. He focused on each step, landing safely, and finally crossed the finish line. He dropped to his knees for a moment, catching his breath, while the major watched silently. "You completed the course faster than I expected," Major Collins said, his voice calm. "Your speed and strength are impressive, but the next test will measure endurance and mental focus. Many strong soldiers find them more challenging than physical obstacles." Kai nodded. He felt proud but also alert. The major's words reminded him that the challenge was only beginning. He could not rely only on his strength. His mind and body both needed to work together. The next test involved lifting heavy weights. A series of large wooden logs and stone blocks were lined up. Kai had to lift each weight, carry it across a marked distance, and return. This task tested not only his strength, but also his stamina. He started with a heavy log, lifting it carefully to his shoulders. His arms and legs shook slightly, but he moved steadily. He carried the weight across the distance, careful not to drop it. Each lift pushed him harder, and sweat ran down his face and back. After completing the weight section, the major guided Kai to a table with small puzzles and memory challenges. "These tests measure focus and problem-solving under pressure," the major explained. "Even a small mistake can cost you time." Kai's strong body was now tired, but his mind cleared. He solved the puzzles one by one, concentrating on every detail. Some required logic, others memory, and a few tested observation. He worked quickly but carefully, finishing each task with precision. When he completed the final challenge, Kai stood tall, breathing heavily but proud. The major nodded again. "You are stronger and faster than most. Your focus is sharp. You have completed the first set of tests with excellence. But the next day, endurance under continuous effort will be the true test." Kai felt a mixture of pride and curiosity. He had performed better than he expected, yet he knew there was more to come. His body ached from the obstacles and weightlifting, but his mind was ready. He wanted to see how far he could push himself. As he left the courtyard, other palace guards gathered around. They admired his performance and whispered words of encouragement. Kai smiled quietly. He knew the challenge was not about showing off. It was about testing himself against the best. He felt a quiet determination growing inside him. Kai spent the evening stretching, drinking water, and reviewing the challenges in his mind. He wanted to prepare for the next day. The palace was calm, but his thoughts were full of plans and strategies. He knew he had strength, skill, and focus, but the next test would demand even more. Kai laid down for rest, thinking about the words of Major Collins. Endurance under pressure could be harder than any obstacle or heavy weight. He closed his eyes, imagining the challenges ahead, feeling both excitement and determination. Tomorrow would be another day to prove himself, and he would be ready. The next morning, Kai arrived at the palace courtyard with a sense of calm determination. His body ached slightly from the previous day's tests, but his mind was sharp and focused. Major Collins had arranged a new set of challenges that promised to be more difficult. Kai knew that strength and speed alone would not be enough. He needed endurance, patience, and careful judgment. Today's test will measure stamina and resilience, Major Collins announced. You will face continuous challenges with little rest. Many soldiers find this harder than any obstacle or puzzle. Are you ready? Kai nodded, tightening his training belt and adjusting his sword. I am ready, he said with quiet confidence. The first task required him to run across the palace gardens carrying 2 heavy water containers. The containers were filled to the brim, and even a slight spill would mean starting over. Kai lifted the containers, feeling their weight against his shoulders. He took a deep breath and began running. Each step felt heavy, but he maintained his pace. His arms trembled, but he adjusted his grip and focused on the path ahead. Halfway through, the uneven ground made him stumble slightly. He steadied himself quickly and continued. Sweat poured down his face, and his breathing grew heavier, but he did not give up. Step by step, he reached the finish line and placed the containers carefully. He took a moment to catch his breath before the next challenge. Major Collins led him to a large, open area where a climbing course awaited. Tall walls, thick ropes, and swinging beams formed a complex structure. He must climb, balance, and move across this course without touching the ground, the major explained. Your time will be recorded, but precision is equally important. Kai studied the course carefully. He noticed the swinging beams first. Their movement required careful timing. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. His hands gripped the rope, and his feet found secure holds on the beams. Each movement required focus and control. One wrong step could mean falling. Midway through, Kai reached the highest wall. It was taller than any he had climbed before. His arms burned, and his legs trembled from fatigue, but he refused to give in. He pushed himself upward, feeling every muscle strain as he reached the top. He rang a small bell at the summit, signaling his completion. The sound echoed through the courtyard, and the palace guards watching cheered silently. The final part of the endurance test was a long run with multiple small tasks along the way. Kai had to carry heavy sandbags, lift stones, and solve small memory challenges while running. His body was exhausted, and his lungs burned, but he forced himself to keep moving. Every task tested him physically and mentally. He reminded himself to stay calm and focused, solving the puzzles carefully while managing his energy. After nearly an hour, Kai finally crossed the finish line. His clothes were soaked with sweat, and his muscles ached from every movement, but he stood tall. Major Collins observed quietly, noting every action and movement. Kai had performed better than expected, yet he could see the Major's eyes showing something more. You have shown remarkable endurance, Major Collins said. Your strength and focus are excellent, but the next test will challenge your limits in a different way. It is designed to measure not only your ability to perform, but also your reaction under pressure." Kai nodded, feeling both proud and alert. He understood that the next challenge could be the most difficult yet. His body was tired, but his spirit remained strong. He had faced obstacles, carried heavy weights, and completed mental challenges. Now, he knew he would face something that would test his complete self-body, mind, and courage. That evening, Kai returned to his room. He stretched his tired muscles carefully, drank water, and ate a simple meal to replenish his strength. His mind replayed the day's challenges, thinking of ways to improve and prepare for the next. The palace was quiet, but Kai's thoughts were full of determination. He knew that the tests were not only about proving himself, but also learning his true limits. As night fell, Kai lay on his mat, closing his eyes. He felt the ache in his muscles and the fatigue in his body, but he welcomed it. He understood that real strength was not just in muscles or speed. It was in endurance, focus, and persistence. Tomorrow, the final test would begin, and he would be ready to face them fully, no matter how challenging they were. Kai's heart was steady, his mind sharp, and his spirit unwavering. The palace walls felt calm and strong around him, and he felt a quiet confidence growing inside. He had faced obstacles, carried heavy weights, solved puzzles, and endured long tests. The next step would reveal even more about his true abilities, and he was ready to meet it with courage and determination. The next morning, Kai arrived at the palace courtyard, feeling the familiar tension of a new challenge. His body was still recovering from the previous day's tests, but his mind was alert. Major Collins was waiting with a serious expression, standing near a large open area filled with strange equipment and obstacles. "Today will be different," the major said. "The tests will measure not just strength, speed, and endurance, but also your ability to adapt, react quickly, and make decisions under pressure. Many soldiers find this day the most difficult." Kai nodded, his eyes scanning the course. It looked more complex than anything he had seen before. There were moving platforms, weighted gates, and areas where he had to balance on narrow beams while carrying heavy objects. He could feel the weight of the challenge pressing on him, but he straightened his back and took a deep breath. The first task was a moving balance course. Kai had to step across a series of narrow platforms that shifted slightly with each step. If he lost focus, he would fall. He took careful steps, adjusting his weight with every move. His muscles tensed, and his mind concentrated fully on each platform. Halfway through, a platform tilted unexpectedly. Kai's first instinct was to jump, but he quickly adjusted, keeping his balance and moving forward. Next came a section where he had to lift a heavy wooden beam and carry it across a set of gates that opened and closed automatically. Timing was critical. If he misjudged, the gates would block his path. Kai lifted the beam, feeling its weight strain his arms and back. He ran carefully, matching his pace with the rhythm of the gates. At the last moment, he ducked under a closing gate, barely avoiding a collision. He placed the beam down safely and moved to the next challenge. The third test combined both mental and physical effort. Small lights flashed in random order along a long wall, and Kai had to step on corresponding platforms in the same sequence. If he made a mistake, he had to start over. His body was already tired, but he focused, keeping his mind sharp. Step by step, he completed the sequence without error. His chest rose and fell heavily, but he felt a quiet satisfaction. The final challenge was the most daunting. Kai had to climb a tall wall, then cross a series of swinging ropes, and finally jump into a narrow landing area. The wall was taller than any he had climbed before, and the rope swung unpredictably. He grabbed the first rope, swinging his body forward, then jumped to the next. His arms burned, his legs shook, but he refused to stop. One by one, he crossed the ropes, reaching the final platform above the landing area. Kai took a deep breath and leaped. He landed safely, feeling the impact in his legs, but also a rush of triumph. He had completed the complex course, but Major Collins was still watching him with a calm, thoughtful expression. "You have shown excellent skill, focus, and adaptability," the Major said. "You have completed the most difficult tests. Now, the final evaluation will show something unexpected. It will compare your performance with the standards of the best soldiers in the United States Army. The results will be revealing." Kai's heart skipped a beat. He had trained for years, and he had proven himself in every test so far. But he knew this final evaluation would show whether his skills could truly match those of elite soldiers. He felt both nervous and excited. The Major handed him a report sheet. "Your performance in speed, strength, endurance, and focus has been recorded. When compared to top Army soldiers, your results are remarkable. In some areas, you exceeded expectations. In others, the comparison is closer than you might expect." Kai looked at the numbers carefully. He realized that while he had incredible strength and agility, certain endurance benchmarks used by the Army were more demanding over long periods. The results were honest, clear, and slightly surprising. Kai felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had done exceptionally well, but there was still room to grow. That evening, Kai returned to his room. He felt tired in his muscles, but energized in his mind. He reflected on the day's challenges and the results. He understood that true strength was not only physical power, but also the ability to endure, adapt, and keep learning. The palace walls seemed peaceful around him, but Kai's thoughts were filled with determination. He stretched carefully, thinking about ways to improve further. He realized that the tests had not only measured his abilities, but it also taught him new lessons about himself. Kai felt ready to continue training, to grow stronger, faster, and wiser. He knew that the journey was not over, and that the next days could bring even more challenges. Kai lay down to rest, confident that his effort and focus had brought him closer to true mastery. Tomorrow would continue the evaluation, and he would be ready to face it fully. His heart was calm, his mind sharp, and his spirit strong. Kai woke early, feeling a mixture of anticipation and calm determination. His muscles were sore from the previous day's challenges, but his spirit was strong. Today, Major Collins had promised tests that would push him further than ever before. The palace courtyard looked different in the early morning light. The sun reflected off the stone floors, and the air was cool and crisp. Kai felt ready. Major Collins greeted him with a serious look. "Today's challenges will focus on endurance under fatigue, problem-solving under pressure, and maintaining accuracy while performing physically demanding tasks," he said. "You will face multiple tasks in sequence, and rest will be minimal. Many soldiers fail because they tire mentally before physically. Are you prepared?" Kai nodded, adjusting the straps of his training uniform. "I am ready," he said, his voice steady. The first task required him to carry 2 heavy barrels across a long courtyard, then stack them in a precise order. The barrels were heavy and unsteady, making the task physically demanding. Kai lifted the first barrel, feeling its weight strain his arms and back. He focused on each step, carefully balancing the barrel as he moved forward. When he reached the stacking area, he positioned the barrel perfectly and repeated the process with the second one. His arms burned, but he refused to slow down. Next, Major Collins led him to a climbing area filled with angled walls and ropes. This was not a simple climb. Each wall had different heights and textures, and some ropes swung unpredictably. Kai approached the first wall, feeling the strain in his legs and arms. He climbed steadily, adjusting his grip and maintaining balance. The ropes tested his timing, and one rope moved faster than he expected. He reacted quickly, swinging with precise control to reach the next platform. After completing the climb, Kai faced a puzzle section. On the ground, there were several small platforms with symbols that had to be pressed in the correct sequence. If he made a mistake, he had to start over. His body was tired, but his mind was sharp. He focused, recalling patterns he had studied the night before. Step by step, he completed the sequence without error. The Major nodded silently, impressed by his accuracy. The following task combined speed, strength, and mental focus. Kai had to carry a weighted bag while running through a zigzag path, then lift a stone block and place it on a raised platform. His legs burned as he ran, but he maintained his rhythm. Lifting the stone required all his strength. His muscles trembled, but he steadied himself, placing the stone carefully. Each movement demanded precision under physical strain. Finally, Kai reached a wall with hanging ropes leading to a narrow platform. The last section required him to swing from rope to rope and jump onto the platform and ring a bell. His arms ached and sweat covered his body, but he moved with determination. Swing by swing, he crossed the ropes, feeling the pull on his muscles with each motion. Reaching the platform, he jumped and rang the bell with a loud, clear sound. The courtyard seemed to echo with the bell's chime. Major Collins approached him, his eyes calm but thoughtful. "Kai, your performance today shows incredible endurance, precision, and focus. Most soldiers would struggle to maintain accuracy under this level of physical fatigue. Your body is strong, but your mind is stronger. You have adapted to challenges exceptionally well." Kai felt a mixture of pride and humility. He knew he had performed well, but the Major's words reminded him that there was always more to learn. Strength alone was not enough. Endurance, focus, and mental clarity mattered equally. As Kai rested, he thought about the sequence of tasks. Each challenge had tested him in a different way, but together they had pushed him beyond what he thought possible. He realized that the tests were not only about competition, but also about discovering limits and learning how to overcome them. That evening, Kai returned to his room, stretching his sore muscles carefully. He drank water and ate a simple meal to regain energy. His mind replayed the events of the day, analyzing his performance and imagining ways to improve. He understood that tomorrow would bring even greater challenges, and that the final results would reveal something truly surprising. Kai lay down, feeling a quiet confidence. He had faced complex tasks, heavy weights, mental puzzles, and endurance challenges. He had kept his focus even under extreme fatigue. The palace walls were calm around him, but inside, Kai felt a growing sense of purpose. He knew that he was close to discovering the full measure of his abilities. Tomorrow, he thought, he would face the ultimate evaluation. But tonight he would rest, recover, and prepare. His heart was steady, his mind alert, and his spirit strong. He had come far, and the journey was reaching the moment that would change everything. Kai arrived at the palace courtyard early in the morning. The air was fresh, and the sunlight shone brightly on the stone floors. His muscles were still recovering from the previous day, but his mind was alert and focused. Major Collins waited with a serious expression, standing near a large new setup of obstacles, weights, and puzzles. "Today," the Major said, "you will face the most demanding sequence so far. It will test your strength, endurance, focus, and your ability to perform under pressure without rest. Many soldiers fail not because of weakness, but because they cannot manage their mind and body together." Kai nodded and adjusted his training uniform. His heart beat steadily. He had trained his body for years, but he knew that these tests were as much about the mind as the muscles. He was ready. The first task was a long endurance run while carrying 2 weighted bags. The bags were heavier than anything Kai had lifted before. He gripped them tightly and started running. Each step felt challenging, but he focused on breathing evenly and keeping his pace steady. Halfway through, the ground became uneven, and he stumbled slightly. He regained balance quickly and continued without losing rhythm. After completing the run, he faced a wall-climbing section. Several walls of varying heights and textures awaited him. Some walls were smooth, requiring careful hand and foot placement, while others had angled surfaces that tested his strength and balance. Kai approached the first wall, planting his feet carefully and gripping the edges firmly. His muscles burned, but he climbed steadily. At the highest wall, he pulled himself up with every ounce of energy he had. He rang a small bell at the top to signal completion. Next, the major guided him to a complex puzzle area. This task combined speed and mental focus. Lights flashed in a sequence on the walls, and Kai had to step on platforms in the correct order while fatigued from the run and climb. He focused carefully, keeping his mind sharp despite the exhaustion in his body. Step by step, he completed the sequence accurately, feeling a sense of quiet pride. The fourth task was both physical and strategic. Kai had to move heavy logs across a narrow path while balancing on thin beams. Each log required careful lifting, and each step required focus to avoid slipping. He carried one log after another, adjusting his weight and using precise movements. The palace guards watched silently, impressed by his strength and control. Finally, the last task of the day combined endurance, focus, and timing. Kai had to swing across ropes over a deep pit, then jump onto a narrow platform and ring a bell at the far end. His arms and legs were tired, but he concentrated on every movement. He swung from the first rope to the next, adjusting for each swing. Halfway across, one rope moved faster than he expected. Kai adjusted quickly, keeping his balance and moving forward. He reached the platform and rang the bell with a loud, clear sound that echoed across the courtyard. Major Collins observed silently, taking notes. Then he spoke. "Kai, you have completed today's tasks with exceptional skill. Your endurance, strength, and focus under pressure are remarkable. Most soldiers would not complete this sequence with the precision and control you demonstrated." Kai felt a mixture of pride and relief. His body was exhausted, but his mind felt strong. He had faced one of the most challenging sequences yet and had completed it successfully. He realized that these tests were teaching him more than just skill. They were teaching him discipline, patience, and the importance of managing mind and body together. As the sun began to set, Kai returned to his room. He stretched carefully, relieving the tension in his sore muscles. He drank water and ate a simple meal, thinking about the day's events. The palace was calm, but his thoughts were active. He reflected on the progress he had made and the lessons he had learned. Kai knew that the final day of evaluation would arrive soon. It would reveal not only his abilities, but also how he compared to elite soldiers of the United States Army. He felt a quiet determination growing inside him. He had trained hard, focused deeply, and pushed his body to limits he had not thought possible. As night fell, Kai lay down, feeling a deep sense of readiness. His muscles were tired, but his mind was alert. The next day would be the final step in his journey, and he would face it fully. He understood that true strength was not just about power, but also about endurance, focus, and the courage to face the unexpected. Kai closed his eyes, his heart steady and his spirit strong. The palace walls surrounded him peacefully, but inside he felt ready for the ultimate challenge. Tomorrow would show what he was truly capable of, and he would meet it without fear. The morning sun rose over the palace with a golden glow, casting long shadows across the courtyard. Kai stood at the starting line, feeling a mixture of anticipation and calm focus. Today was the final day of tests, and he knew it would be the most demanding. Major Collins was already waiting, his expression serious. "Today, You will face the ultimate challenge, the Major announced. It will measure everything you have learned: strength, endurance, focus, and adaptability. The final evaluation will also compare your performance to the best soldiers of the United States Army. Prepare yourself. Kai nodded, adjusting his uniform and taking a deep breath. He felt the tension in his muscles, but he welcomed it. This was the moment he had trained for. He had prepared for months, testing himself against obstacles, weights, and mental puzzles. Today, all of that effort would be put to the test. The first task was a long endurance run while carrying 2 heavy-weighted packs. The distance was longer than any previous test, and the ground was uneven with small obstacles along the path. Kai lifted the packs carefully, feeling the strain immediately, but he focused on steady breathing and even steps. He ran through the obstacles with care, keeping his balance and pace. Halfway through, he felt fatigue creeping in, but he pushed forward with determination. Next came a climbing section with tall walls and swinging ropes. The walls were higher and smoother than any he had faced before. Kai gripped each edge with precision, pulling his body upward. The ropes swayed unpredictably, testing his timing and focus. Step by step, he moved carefully, adjusting his strength to maintain balance. When he finally rang the bell at the top, his arms were trembling, but his spirit remained strong. After the climb, Major Collins led him to a series of mental and physical tasks. Light patterns flashed along a long platform, and Kai had to step on the correct sequence while carrying a moderately heavy stone. His body ached, but he concentrated fully, remembering the patterns he had studied. Step by step, he completed the sequence, feeling both relief and pride. The final part of the challenge combined multiple skills at once. Kai had to swing across ropes over a wide pit, balance on narrow beams, lift weighted logs, and place them precisely on marked platforms. Each movement required full focus, strength, and endurance. He gripped the ropes tightly, swinging from one to another, timing each jump perfectly. His legs burned and his arms ached, but he continued without hesitation. Carefully, he balanced the logs on the platforms, adjusting his stance with each placement. When he completed the course, Kai dropped to his knees for a moment, breathing heavily. Sweat covered his body, and his muscles trembled from exertion, but he felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Major Collins approached, taking out a notebook and checking his observations. "Kai," the Major said, "your performance today is extraordinary. You have completed tasks that most soldiers would find impossible. Your speed, endurance, focus, and adaptability are remarkable. When compared to the best soldiers in the United States Army, your results are exceptional. In several areas, you exceeded their standards. Your strength is impressive, but your ability to maintain focus under extreme fatigue is what truly sets you apart." Kai felt a mix of pride and humility. He had pushed himself to the limit, yet the results showed that hard work, discipline, and focus had brought him beyond expectations. The realization was both surprising and gratifying. He had trained for years, believing in his strength, but now he saw that the combination of mind and body, determination and strategy, had made the real difference. As the sun began to set, Kai walked calmly to his room. He stretched carefully, allowing his tired muscles to relax. His mind replayed the day's events, analyzing every move and every decision he had made. He understood that the tests had not only measured his abilities, but also taught him new lessons about perseverance, patience, and self-discipline. Kai lay down to rest, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. He knew that he had faced the ultimate challenge and had proven himself not only to the Major, but also to himself. The palace was quiet, the walls standing strong around him, but inside, Kai felt a quiet triumph. He had discovered the full measure of his abilities, and the journey had shown him that strength alone was not enough. True mastery came from courage, focus, and determination. Tomorrow, he thought, would bring reflection and recognition. But tonight, Kai rested, his heart steady, his mind sharp, and his spirit proud. He had faced the impossible and emerged stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The morning air in the palace courtyard was crisp and calm. Kai stood straight, feeling a quiet sense of anticipation. The past days had pushed him to his limits, testing his strength, endurance, and focus. Today, Major Collins would reveal the final evaluation, showing how Kai's performance compared to elite soldiers of the United States. Army. Major Collins appeared with a folder in his hand, his expression calm but serious. "Kai," he began, "over the past several days, you have completed a series of challenges designed to test every aspect of a soldier's skill. Strength, speed, endurance, focus, and adaptability have all been measured. Today, you will learn how your performance compares to some of the best trained soldiers in the world." Kai listened carefully, his heart beating steadily. He had trained for years in the palace, believing himself to be strong and capable. But he had no idea how his skills would compare to the Army standards. The major opened the folder and showed Kai the detailed results. Kai's eyes scanned the charts and numbers. He noticed that in physical strength, he had scored higher than average Army soldiers. His lifting, climbing, and swinging abilities were exceptional. In speed, he was above average, completing obstacle courses faster than most of the test soldiers. His precision in mental tasks, even under fatigue, was also impressive. Kai felt a swell of pride, but the most surprising part was yet to come. Major Collins pointed to a column labeled "Endurance under Fatigue and Focus under Pressure." Kai's performance here was not only above average, it was outstanding. Many of the Army's elite soldiers struggled in this section. But Kai had completed every task with remarkable consistency, accuracy, and control. "You have exceeded expectations in multiple areas," Major Collins said. "Your combination of physical strength, mental focus, and endurance is rare. In some aspects, your performance surpasses the top standards of trained Army soldiers. The results are not only impressive, but also unexpected. A royal guard from a palace has performed at a level few professional soldiers achieve." Kai felt a mixture of surprise and pride. He had trained hard for years, but he had never imagined that his efforts would be compared to elite soldiers from another country, and that he could exceed their standards in so many areas. He realized that all the training, the long runs, the heavy lifting, the climbing, and the mental puzzles had prepared him in ways he had never fully understood. Major Collins continued, "Kai, what you have shown is not just strength or skill. It is discipline, resilience, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. These qualities are what make an exceptional soldier. You have proven that your training, focus, and determination are extraordinary." Kai felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The results were shocking, but they also taught him something important. True strength was not measured only by power or speed, but by the ability to endure challenges, maintain focus, and adapt to unexpected situations. He had discovered that his greatest strength came from the combination of body and mind working together. The palace guards gathered around, listening to Major Collins' words. They looked at Kai with admiration and respect. Many had always known he was strong, but now they realized that his abilities went beyond what they had imagined. Kai smiled quietly, feeling gratitude for the support of his friends and the guidance of his mentors. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Kai stood tall. He knew that the tests had changed him. He was stronger, faster, and more focused than ever, but more importantly, he had learned about perseverance, discipline, and self-confidence. He understood that challenges were opportunities to grow, and the shocking results were a reflection of his dedication and determination. Kai, thanked Major Collins for the challenge. "I have learned more than I expected," he said. "This experience has shown me my limits and how to go beyond them." Major Collins nodded with approval. "You have done more than anyone could expect. Remember this lesson: strength alone is not enough. Focus, endurance, and adaptability define true capability." Kai walked through the palace courtyard, the sunlight warming his face. He felt proud, confident, and ready for the future. He had faced the impossible, proven himself against the highest standards, and learned a lesson that would guide him for the rest of his life. The journey had ended, but the growth it brought would last forever.